Okay, we're going to have a look at some rhythmic effects in this video, starting off with Tremulator. Now what I've got here is the rock track, and I've soloed just the drums and then a guitar part. And what I've also got is some effects on the acoustic guitar that we're going to look at a little bit later. Let's have a listen to how it sounds. I'm actually going to bring this reverb back in on the acoustic guitar. Okay, so I'm actually going to mute that to start with, and we'll first of all look at the guitar that's here, the slide guitar. So let's bring in Tremolator. Now tremolo is an effect that allows us to modulate the volume of something. So a lot of guitar amps have this built in, and things like Rhodes pianos. It's also very popular when people were making dubstep. It allowed you to get that wobble effect. That was usually routing an LFO into the volume or the filter on your synthesizer. Okay, so let's start off with getting a nice usable tremolo on the guitar. So let's hear how it sounds with the default patch. So you can hear how we've added an extra pulse to this guitar part. Now we're doing this in time with our track because we've got the MIDI switched on here, so it's doing it to 130 beats per minute. We can use our rhythm option here to be able to change the speed of the tremolo. And our depth control allows us to dial in the amount of the effect we want. We can also change the groove and feel. So we can have kind of a shuffle and a swing effect. And feel allows us to kind of bring the overall effect forward or back. We also have some different shapes here that we can choose from, including some kind of classic settings like a Wurlitzer. Okay, so to me that just sounds good. Let's bring in our acoustic guitar patch here again. Okay, so we're going to go about creating what's called a trance gate style effect. Now, if you're into trance or into making electronic music, you probably will have come across this effect. It's kind of a choppy style rhythmic effect, especially good on long sustaining sounds such as this one. So let's bring Tremulator in. So let's go about making this style of sound. I'm going to open a tweak menu here. Now from here you can see we actually have the ability to draw in our own rhythms for Tremulator. So let's play this sound so we can hear it in context. Now, as we did before, we can bring in different shapes for this. We can also choose to change the smoothing so it's more abrupt. Or a little softer. I'm just going to go in actually and change the decay time on this reverb. It's taking a little bit too long to decay away. Okay, so from here on this grid menu here, we can actually change the tempo of the rhythms we draw in. So now we're actually working with 16th notes. So let's see what that sounds like. Let's put in some 30-second notes. pretty cool, I'm just going to bring the feel to the left a bit so it's slightly more rushed. Now we also have this accent control, which allows us to accent the first kind of beats of the bar, or de-accent them, essentially turn them down. And finally, let's bring in some kind of analog style crunch. And let's bring our guitar back in. Let's try it without these tremolators. So you can see by adding these tremolators, we've kind of almost created a remix style vibe with this track. It's just added that extra rhythmic interest and taken the sounds away from how they were originally. So it can be a really cool creative effect. Okay, so there's some ideas for Tremulator. Let's have a look at Pan Man. Now we've got back to the Tech House track and we have a sound here which is kind of a vocal-led rhythmic effect. So we're going to use this to add some Pan Man. I'll bring it in. Let's actually start off with it in solo so we can hear what we're doing. So let's start off with something kind of very easily usable and basic. So we could add in a pan effect using the default kind of setting, which is this LFO setting. And we can use the rate knob to determine the speed of that modulation. That's going to be off the grid, so it's not synced to project tempo. Now at the moment it's kind of got a hard cut between the pan positions. Let's make it soft. And the width control determines how far it's going left and right. Let's try it in context. Let's actually bring up some extra input volume. So we're adding rhythmic interest to this part. Now, as much as I want to go through the Soundtoys plugins, I also want to give you some different ideas and different themes for mixing. And this is an important concept because we're adding rhythmic interest to something, so we're drawing the ear's attention to that sound. Now, you don't always want to do that. Sometimes you want sounds to really be in the background. So you have to pick and choose your kind of places to add extra interest to sounds, because you need to decide what you want to draw the listener's attention to and what you want to just be in the background, be more of the kind of bed of the track that sounds more in the foreground, sit on top of. Now, if we wanted this to be done to project tempo, we could use this rhythm shape option here. Now, we can choose from here either by clicking on these arrows here or by actually opening the menu, different notes, dotted notes, triplet notes, and bars as well. So let's try some dotted options here. Now at the moment we're kind of going left to right, left to right, left to right. Let's go left, right, left, right. So that works quite nicely, having these half notes here, because we're going left, right in time with the kick drum. And we could also add some extra groove to this as well. Okay, so that's adding really nice rhythmic interest. Now let's try this rhythm step option. Go to the tweak menu. So the rhythm shape option is actually similar to Tremulator in the same way as we looked at before when we were doing the trance gate. But rhythm step has a slightly different kind of way of working, but it's similar. So we can again change our grid settings here, and we can go in and add in extra points, like so. Let's drag these around. It can be a little bit fiddly, as you can see. There we go. And let's see what we can come up with. Let's really push it. We'll do some 30-second notes as well. So now we've got a more complex rhythm going on here. Make it even harder. I think it works better with a bit more smoothing. So it's really cool at adding some extra interest to the part. Okay, so I've got the drums bust here. And what I'm going to do is bring in another pan man on the drums. And this time, let's try using the step option. So this allows us to change the pan position dynamically using different triggers. I'm going to go to the tweak option here. So let's do it with a low pass. So we're going to be doing it triggered by the kick drum. So we can monitor what we're going to be using as a trigger signal. So we've really just got the kick drum working there. Now we can choose to change the position every 1, or let's say we do it every 4 kick drums. It's basically randomly changing the position of the kick drum every 4 kick drum beats, but we can change this to whatever we want. Or it could be every 1. Now you've got to be careful doing this on your main drums, because obviously you don't want things like the kick drum moving around in the speakers too much, but maybe on a secondary rhythmic element it could be quite cool to have things kind of bouncing around in the speakers. Okay, so that's some ways you can use Pan-Man to create rhythmic interest in your mixes. In the next videos, we're going to have a look at filtering in a Soundtoys bundle. Thanks for watching.